everybody. Welcome back to Beer and Books. I hope you had a great day. Before we dive into our next chapter of Sammy Keys, Neve is going to share her writing prompt from last night. And as you will probably remember, the prompt was, if you could meet any character from a book or movie, who would it be? And describe that exchange. Without further ado, here's Neve.
So, my thing that I did for the prompt is I would want to meet Allie from Fish in a Tree, and I forget who it's by, but that's what I wrote. I get up and walk downstairs to get breakfast, expecting nothing but gross eggs on a stained plate, but somehow the eggs are delicious. Hello, hi Mom, I do a double take. You're Allie? You're Allie from Fish in a Tree. I am. So, what do you want to do? Can you tell me what it's like to have autism? Well, we chatted all day, and I think we both had a silver dollar day.
All right, here we go with chapter 3 of Sammy Keys and the Hotel Thief. I really thought it might only take a minute and that Grams wouldn't even notice I was late. I thought wrong. There were kids hanging around outside the Heavenly Hotel, peeking in the windows, but they didn't seem to know anything. And since the door was propped open, I just walked right in. There were only adults inside, so I found a spot where I thought the policeman wouldn't notice me. Right behind one of those Pope hat chairs. Now, I didn't mind policemen. Actually, when I was in the 4th grade, I wanted to be one. But that was before Lady Lana left me with Grams, and I had to start worrying about someone finding out. When you're living where you're not supposed to be living, it doesn't take long to figure out that you should stay away from people who ask nosy questions. And believe me, policemen like to ask lots of nosy questions. And you could tell they've been asking this one lady lots and lots of nosy questions. The lady was wearing a dress that looked like it was made out of metal. It had tiny silver hoops all linked together that kind of shimmered when she moved. She had on pointy silver high heels and silver nylons. She had really long fingernails that were painted black with silver moons and stars. Her hair was all swirled around on top of her head and plastered with so much hairspray that it didn't move, even though she was yelling and shaking her head back and forth so much that her long silver earrings were swinging around, practically hitting her in the cheeks. I moved a little bit closer behind another Pope hat chair. The policeman was telling her, "Now, miss, please calm down." "Quit telling me to calm down. I'll calm down when you find my money." There were 2 policemen taking the report, but I could only see the face of one. He's tall and skinny and has lots of white teeth and a stringy little mustache. He says, "You say it was $4,000? What, are you deaf? Yes, $4,000. The policeman scribbles away in his notebook. "And why did you say you were carrying this much cash around?" Those earrings start flying again. "I didn't say, and it's none of your business. Your business is to find out who stole it from me." Tall and skinny just scribbles some more in his notebook, then tugs on a corner of his mustache and says, "We'll do our best." She throws her hands up in the air. "That's it? That's all you're going to do? What about fingerprints? Aren't you at least going to look for fingerprints?" Before I can stop myself, I step out from behind the Pope hat chair and say, "You won't find any fingerprints." For a second, everything's quiet till Tall and Skinny quits playing with his mustache and the lady's earrings come in for a landing. Then everyone, and I mean everyone, turns around and stares at me. All of a sudden, my throat's feeling kind of ticklish, so it only comes out as a whisper when I say, "He was wearing gloves." The second policeman turns around to look at me, and I just want to disappear. It's Officer Borsch, the man behind my one and only experience with the law. See, he gave me a ticket once for jaywalking, and it's not like it's so bad getting a ticket for jaywalking. It's just that I thought it was so stupid, so I gave him the wrong name and the wrong everything else. So there I am, staring at him, trying like mad to remember the name I gave him when I got caught jaywalking. And I'm thinking that maybe I shouldn't remember it because he's staring at me like he's trying to remember who I am. And if I give him the name I made up, maybe he will remember. And then I'll be in some major trouble. When the lady croaks out, "What did you say?" I mumble, "He was wearing gloves." Officer Borsch says, "Who was wearing gloves?" I try to shrink a few inches. "The man I saw on the 4th floor taking money out of a purse." The lady yells, "See?" Officer Borsch squints at me. "And how did you happen to see someone on the 4th floor stealing money out of a purse?" Now you have to understand, Officer Borsch isn't the kind of man it's easy to lie to. He's big, he's Mikey, all grown up and in a very bad mood. His hair's done with Crisco and his shirt is so tight it looks like he's trying to press it from the inside out. On top of that, he's nosy, very nosy. When he gave me that ticket for jaywalking, he must have asked me 100 questions that didn't have a thing to do with jaywalking. And I thought I was so smart answering every single one of them with a lie. I remember throwing the ticket away in a dumpster, feeling like I had just hit a home run. And now, here I was, face to face with the Borsch man, on the verge of getting thrown into juvenile hall. "I asked you a question." "Huh? Oh, I look around and can tell everyone knows I'm trying to think of a lie, so I blurt out, "I saw him through binoculars." "Binoculars?" he says. "From where?" I try to sound real calm. "From across the street." Officer Borsch squints even harder. "You want to tell me you could see someone clear up on the 4th floor from across the street?" I nod, and he blows air out of his mouth like a deflating balloon. "Leave her alone." The lady moves in a little closer to me. "Go ahead, honey. Tell me what you saw." I look at her for a minute, thinking that $4,000 is an awful lot of money, and that if it were mine, I would surely want it back. Finally, I say, "I was visiting my grandmother in the senior high-rise. I was bored, so I started looking around with binoculars, and I saw some guy taking money out of a purse." She grabs me by the shoulders, and I can feel her little fingernail galaxies digging into my back. When did you see this?" "About an hour ago." She yells at Tall and Skinny, "What did I tell you?" Then she turns back to me. "And honey, what did this man look like?" He had brown hair and a brown beard, and he was wearing black gloves and a black jacket. Officer Borsch pushes the lady aside. "Was he tall? Was he short?" "Kind of medium." "What kind of jacket was it?" "It was straight with big pockets." "What do you mean straight?" he asks. "You know, it wasn't puffy, it was straight." "Heavy?" "Kind of medium." He shakes his head. "Kind of medium? Oh, that's a real good description." Well, let me tell you, I didn't like the way he was rolling his eyes and talking down to me. He was treating me like a stupid little kid, and I'm not a stupid little kid. So when he sighs and says, "Could you at least tell me, was he skinny or fat?" I point to Tall and Skinny and say, "Well, he wasn't as skinny as him." Then I point to the Borsch man, "And he sure wasn't as fat as you." The lady just busts up, but Officer Borsch doesn't think it's too funny. His neck gets kind of red, and he puts his face right next to mine. "Look, little girl, we've had 5 burglaries in this vicinity in the past 2 weeks. We don't have time for your wisecracks. If you know something, tell us. If you don't, or if you're just making all this up, then go home to your mommy and let us do our work." The lady steps in. "Honey, How old do you think he was? Now, I'm okay at guessing some things, but age is not one of them. I don't know. Maybe 40? Officer Borsch mumbles, "Kinda medium, huh?" And then laughs like he's the funniest guy in the building. He clears his throat. "Look, we'll get your name and number, and if we have any further questions, we'll just call you." There goes my heart again, knocking away in my chest. I've told you everything I can think of, except I'm thinking the fact that it feels like I've seen the guy somewhere before. Tall and Skinny flips open his notebook. "Well, just in case, let's get your name and address." "Great." And I'm thinking, how do I get myself into these things? When out of my mouth pops Samantha Keys, 6375 East Jasmine. Now, if they were thinking at all, they would have taken one look at me and known there's no way I live on East Jasmine. East Jasmine is where they have 2 houses to their driveways and riding mowers for their lawns. East Jasmine is where people from out of town go just to gawk. And 6375 East Jasmine is where Marissa lives. Tall and Skinny doesn't even blink. He just scribbles it down and says, "Very good. We'll contact you if we need you." So I say to the lady, "I hope you get your money back," and then head out the door. One of the kids outside calls, "Hey, what's going on in there?" I shrug, "Just a burglary." And I'm about to jaywalk across the street when I glance back at the Heavenly and see Officer Borsch watching me through the doorway. I stop and head down to the intersection because I can tell Officer Borsch is not going to sleep well until he remembers just exactly where he's run into me before. All right, that concludes chapter 3. But before we end tonight's video, I will introduce another writing prompt. So if you have time between now and tomorrow evening, I encourage you to think about your superpowers and to write what kind of superhero you would be with those powers and how would you put them to good use. All right, have a good evening and we will see you tomorrow, everybody.